And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And do thank everybody for joining us. Coming up this hour, we'll speak with our great friend Lars Larson, get his thoughts on being back here in the Treasure Valley. Of course, you can catch him weeknights from 6 to 9, right after our friend Sean Hannity. We've known Lars for years. We're looking forward to that. In addition to talking to Lars Larson, we'll take your calls about the issues that matter to you. Number one, we were talking about this officer-involved shooting where you had two officers performing a traffic stop. A person in the back seat, a male, did not adhere to the commands of the officers. He pulled out a weapon, and he was shot. He was shot dead at the scene. The investigation continues over this. And when you think of this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, just how crazy a world we live in where we have, it used to be once or twice, maybe a year, where we have police officers, whether it's in Meridian or Nampa or Caldwell or Boise or Kuna or wherever, having to pull their weapons. Now it seems to be happening more and more often. And yes, it's easy to blame our friends from California. Have you been to California recently? Right? Have you been to California recently? No wonder people are trying to get out. And maybe it's not just folks from California, it's people east of the Great River, right? East of the Great River that come in and the tailgating. It amazes me in the morning how many people, and you look, I'm Slowpoke Joe. How many people continue to tailgate before 5 a.m. in the morning? It is just kind of crazy. All right, while we're waiting on Lars Larson to give us a call, we will continue on here. Phone number's 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And this story, again, going back to this law in California, looking at making California a sanctuary
Make California
state.
A sanctuary state by preventing police from inquiring about immigration status and curtailing law enforcement cooperation with immigration officers. The signing of the bill by Governor Jerry Brown, a Democrat, enacts on a statewide level protections for illegal immigrants that exist in several cities, including Chicago and New York. The protections for illegal immigrants by California, the country's most populous state, sets the stage for a political battle with President Donald Trump, who has made a crackdown on illegal immigration one of his top priorities.
So there we have it. California basically saying, you're not the boss of us, right? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You can't just have states making this up, right? You can't just have states deciding, we're not going to do this. You just can't have states doing this. Of course, we have this with marijuana, right? We're going to smoke dope and have a good time. And the federal government isn't the boss of us. Apparently, that's not happening. Right? And now here we have some other things going on. It's just kind of crazy. California wanting to be a sanctuary state. What would be the point of being in the union then? What would be the point of being in the union if all of a sudden you can declare yourself a sanctuary state? And we've heard people from California saying they want to secede from America. How would they, fund their military and everything else? Crazy. Let's go to Liberty Linda with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. Kevin, this country is supposed to be one country from beautiful blue sea to beautiful blue sea. This land is a blessed land, all of it, and held back until the last days. So it's a land that goes over the wall and given to the descendants of Joseph of Egypt and his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, for an inheritance. So, Kevin, I believe California should stay part of the United States and not be broken off. secede from the Union? No. So that's what I believe.
Well, I agree with you, Liberty Linda. But the idea that they're floating this is very troubling. And a lot of people from California moving here, even more troubling. Look at great conservative states in the East that have been overtaken by the libs. You know, you have all these people flooding in here, bringing in their liberal ideas.
Oh, well, you're absolutely correct, and it hurts our hearts. We love this country just as it is. And we don't want any part of it to be, cut off or taken away from our wonderful, wonderful United States. That's what I believe. We love it the way it is.
Well, Liberty Linda, we love you. Thank you for calling us here today at KIDO Talk Radio.
Thank you, Kevin. Looking forward to hearing from your guest.
He's Lars Larson is ready, so
all right.
We're ready to speak with him. Thank you, Liberty Linda.
Okay, you as well.
Okay, bye-bye. Joining us now, our great friend Lars Larson.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Great to have you with us, sir. Great to have you back in Idaho, of course. You've had so many adventures lately. It's great to have you on, and thank you for joining us so early in the morning, sir.
No worries. I'm usually in the studio by this time of the morning. Got a little bit of a scratchy throat because of the cold that's been making its way around the Northwest. But it is so nice to be on in Boise because I've been getting so many both emails and Facebook posts from folks who are your listeners who tell me welcome to Boise. So I appreciate that as well.
Well, certainly we appreciate your insight. You've been doing this for quite a long time. Lars, for people that aren't familiar with you, your show, your values, can you share those with us here?
I'm a conservative, and the number one, and a Republican second. I'm a grandfather. I'm a husband, and I've been doing radio for 42 years. And I have a tremendous fun time doing what I do, trying to bring people some information. I give them my opinion, and I invite them to give me their opinion. And I always put naysayers to the head of the line.
I can't believe this. You don't look like you've been doing radio for 42 years, sir.
Well, I started when I was 16, and in this March I'll be 59. So this year it'll be 43 years. So it's been a while.
Indeed. What has changed in your 43 years talking to folks, and even more importantly, listening to them, sir?
Well, what's changed in a big way is the fact that talk radio is now the single largest format in radio. And Kevin, when I got started, I imagine when you got started, talk radio was one of the smallest formats. People don't realize what a change government deregulation made in the landscape in America, and another opportunity for people to be able to voice their opinions and hear the opinions of others. Back in the mid-1980s, when deregulation came under Ronald Reagan in 1986, 2 years later, there was a tremendous jump. There were about 110 talk stations in all of America at that point. Today, there are closer to 2,000 talk stations, and all it took to make that happen was take the government regulation off and allow the marketplace to decide, what works and what doesn't, which is the way it should work in every field of commerce in this country. If you do a really good job, you get audience. If you do a really good job, you sell Boeing airplanes. If you do a great job, you sell Buck knives out of Post Falls. I mean, and if you do a bad job, the marketplace lets you know.
Lars Larson joining us. You can catch him weeknights at 6 here at KIDO Talk Radio. So, Lars, when we take a look at you, the Pacific Northwest, the West, you've been an institution in this area for quite some time. Why stay? Why the attachment? And what has that meant to your lifestyle?
I love the Pacific Northwest. I grew up here. I've spent my entire life here. I've lived my entire life in the states of Oregon, Washington, Montana. I've lived in Spokane, but I've never actually lived in the state of Idaho. But my family and I love recreating in Idaho. We've gone snowmobiling in Idaho. In fact, we were in Idaho just over the break between Christmas and New Year's, and went up up into Canada. So we love the Pacific Northwest, even though the politics here drive us crazy.
Well, that's a good point. It seems like you're living and have lived in occupied territory for quite some time.
Yeah, and it actually works out very well, I think, both for me and for the audience of my show, and here's why. If you live in, as you say, occupied territory, where every time you turn on the television for local news, you're likely to get a liberal point of view. If you pick up the local newspaper, you're almost guaranteed to get a liberal point of view. If you turn on music, if you watch movies, if you consume almost any kind of media that tells you about the world, it's a liberal point of view. And, I would defend that even in terms of music. Country Western tends to be a little more conservative in its message and its audience. but the other musical formats can actually be openly antithetical to America. I mean, they can be anti-cop, anti-woman, anti-America. And so, you know, when you have still a sizable number of people who are conservatives in the Northwest, and depending on where you are in the Northwest, you may have as few as 35 or 40%, or as many as, say, 50%, that group feels really embattled. They don't know where to turn because they want to find out about what's going on around them in their world, but every time they turn on any kind of media, they cannot get a conservative point of view, except on talk radio, like the folks who've come to KIDO.
Lars Larson joining us here, KIDO Talk Radio. Catch him weeknights at 6. So, Lars, unlike a lot of shows, and I've studied you for years, you've been in one place. I've been the radio vagabond until I had the pleasure of coming here to Idaho. You take your show on the road, whether it's within the continental United States, whether it's to the White House, or whether it's overseas.
Yeah, we do. Every opportunity we get, we take the show on the road because we want to see the rest of the world. We were as recently as a few weeks ago, we were at the White House doing the first ever broadcast from the East Room of the White House. We've done the show, of course, from New York and Los Angeles and places like that. But we love taking the show out to the place where real Americans live. And I imagine we'll be coming to Boise this year. We certainly go on the road all over the Pacific Northwest. And I love doing the show from places where people are gathered, whether it's a county fair or a commercial event of one kind or another. We take the show on the road probably 50, 60 days a year. In fact, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be going down to SHOT Show, which is the shooting, hunting, outdoor trade show that happens every year in Vegas, where you see all these great Northwest companies represented, including Buck Knives, as I said, from Post Falls, and a lot of the great Northwest companies that sell guns and scopes and knives and outdoor gear. And we go there every year because we see some great Americans there, and we get a chance to talk to some people from the Pacific Northwest who've gone there to do business.
Lars Larson joining us here, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Catch Lars tonight at 6. So what was it like? And again, you've been to White House Media Days before, but not this significant, not this most elite of a calling. What was it like to be there, to interview Donald Trump, to see these folks face to face?
It was extraordinary, Kevin. It really was. I mean, first of all, each and every time that I've had the opportunity to visit the White House, whether as a tourist or as a guest, I've been in the Oval Office a couple of times during the Bush administration. But every time you're in that building, it occurs to me, and I usually say it to the people around me, this is the single most significant piece of real estate on planet Earth. It is where some of the largest and most consequential decisions have been made in the last 100 years, decisions that have literally saved the world during World War II, even during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's a place where decisions have been made that have kept this country safe, that have made consequential change for this country. And it was such a pleasure and such an honor to be there, to get a chance to sit down with Donald Trump for about 10 minutes and talk to him face to face. And he is the real deal. He is the guy who is going to make so many changes to America, not only because he's trying to undo some of the damage that was done by the previous administration, but there's a second thing he's doing. He's breaking the political mold. So many things that Donald Trump was told, you can't do things that way. There were even Republicans who said, we won't even get a vote on a tax bill this year, and that was last year, 2017. Of course, we did, and we had the most consequential change to tax laws in America that's happened in a third of a century. They said you can't move the embassy for the United States to the capital of Israel, which is Jerusalem. Every other president has promised to do it. No other president has had the guts to do it. He did it. We were told that we had to accept Hillary Clinton as the inevitable president of the United States, and that she would have added 2 or maybe even 3 members to the Supreme Court, and we would have had a solidly liberal Supreme Court, Kevin, for the rest of your life, for the rest of my life, and likely for the rest of the lives of all the kids in high school who may be listening this morning.
Lars Larson joining us here on KIDO Talk Radio, weeknights at 6. Lars, again, back to your exclusive meeting with the president, sharing that on the air as a person who has grown up in the Pacific Northwest. What was that, a feeling of humility, being in the Oval Office with the Bush administration? What was that like for you as a person?
No, it was extraordinary. In fact, it just makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck because you're thinking, I'm in this place, but at the same time, one of the things that occurred to me was I feel very privileged as an American citizen to have the honor to be there. And it's not necessarily because I've done anything great, but it's because I have the opportunity to communicate to a lot of Americans about what is going on there, and that I should take that honor seriously, and I should take it respectfully. And I hope that I have. And I think I did the same thing when I got a chance to talk to President Trump, because I wanted to ask him good questions, respectful questions, but tough questions about where this country's going.
Lars, we've got just a couple more questions because, again, we appreciate your time. We look forward to having you here in the Treasure Valley. What do you make of the whole Fire and Fury Michael Wolff brouhaha?
Well, I think Michael Wolff is a bit deceptive. He even admitted this morning, this is the man who wrote this book about Donald Trump that is so very critical of Donald Trump. He managed to insinuate himself into the White House, and he managed to be in a position, as he said this morning, that he did interview President Trump, whether President Trump realized it or not. Now, Kevin, if you said something like that, wouldn't you be admitting that maybe you interviewed somebody under false pretenses, or that you interviewed them and they didn't realize they were being interviewed? He also has had a history as a writer. If you look him up and look up both his critics and his friends, they'll admit to you that he has, I guess, a sketchy connection to the truth. That there are times where he uses more than a little bit of poetic license, and in essence makes things up. The book has already been characterized by the White House as the National Republic on as National Enquirer on steroids. So it's and whether you should believe the things that are printed in that book or not, I don't know. Does it make sense to you that the book asserts that Donald Trump never planned to win the presidency, that he assumed he was going to lose? Does Donald Trump strike you as the kind of guy who goes into any contest planning to lose?
No, not at all, Lars.
They'd also said that Melania Trump was in tears the night of the election, but not tears of joy, but tears of sadness or anguish at the idea that she was becoming first lady and her husband was becoming president. Does that ring true?
No.
No. And so as you go through these things and you say the left, and I think you'll remember this from during the campaign, there were people on the left, including serious journalists at places like the New York Times, which I don't take as seriously anymore, who said the threat of Donald Trump is so significant that it's the job of journalists to do whatever they have to do, even if they have to make it up, to be able to defeat this man. I think we should take those kinds of messages seriously. There are people out there who are willing to, for both money, because it sells books, and for their own personal self-aggrandizement, to do damage to this president, even if it means lying about him. Do a lot of us believe that Hillary Clinton lied about Donald Trump? Yes, we do. Do I believe that she and her campaign and the DNC spent $12 million with Fusion GPS to have them craft a package of lies now referred to as the Steele dossier? There was a pack of lies about the man who's now president to try to defeat him through illicit means. And do we know for a fact that Hillary Clinton and the DNC denied even Bernie Sanders, their fellow party member, a square shot at the nomination? So if that gives you an idea of what these people are willing to do to defeat Donald Trump, even if they have to cheat, even if they have to lie, should I take this book seriously?
Exactly. Our great friend Lars Larson with us. And finally, Lars, I wanted to thank you. The person who was the most excited to have you on our station here at KIDO Talk Radio was my mom. And
that's wonderful.
She listens every day, and she kept saying, well, what about Lars Larson? Because we met, and again, we're not name dropping here, but just to let everybody know, when Lars Larson comes into a room, you are gregarious, you're an extrovert, you listen. When I go into a room, I just kind of sit there and I watch. And we met at the White House. It was the White House Christmas party in 2008. Yep. And my mom is wandering around, and I'm watching you and your wife, and I'm sitting there hoping Helen Thomas doesn't smack me, and just saving a seat. And you just walk up to my mom and say, hey, that's the residence. And she goes, really? And you just knew so much about the intricacies of the White House. She was a total stranger to you. And it's just the type of person you are. So thank you and welcome. And she still talks about that to this day.
Well, Kevin, tell your mom thanks very, very much. I can't tell her thanks enough, and I'm so glad to be on in the Treasure Valley.
Well, we can't wait to hear what you're going to be talking about this evening. And again, we can't wait to see you, Lars. And again, thank you for always being our friend on the trail, sir.
I'm always glad to do it, and I look forward to our next visit to Boise.
Yes, sir. Take care, Lars. Thank you.
You too. Take care, Kevin.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Lars Larson joining us here at KIDO Talk Radio. We so appreciate it. He'll be on tonight right after Sean Hannity. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO.
Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, a live report from California, plus Michael Wolff is speaking. We'll hear from him. A lot going on this morning. By the way, don't forget, Congressman Labrador will be joining us as well. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
Having a great time starting your day. Thank you all for joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We've been talking about California all morning long. Let's go live to Los Angeles. Jessica Rosenthal joining us from Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning.
So, a week of legalized weed and marijuana, or I'm sorry, in California, I guess we could call it Caliwana. Any big issues?
It doesn't sound like there were too many problems in the rollout. I think what took a lot of people off guard yesterday was the announcement from the Trump administration's Department of Justice, because for all of the state-authorized legality that now exists in California, it is still illegal at the federal level, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions made that abundantly clear yesterday with not only an announcement that he was taking back an old Obama-era policy that said, hey, if your state legalized it, we're going to stay out of your way. He then went a step further in issuing his own memo that said not only is the drug still illegal and illegal according to Congress under the Controlled Substances Act, but more than that, we'd like to remind you, prosecutors, federal prosecutors, that any marijuana-related activities at the federal level that you deem worthy of prosecution, please remember such activities can also relate to banking and money laundering. So keep your head on a swivel, because there might be other related crimes to marijuana that are prosecutable by your office. So U.S. attorneys' offices in those states, including here in California, were not only reminded that this drug is illegal, but with the rescinding of that sort of Obama-era policy, not given new power, but sort of restored back to the old power.
Indeed. Jessica Rosenthal joining us from California, Fox News Radio, on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. What's the reaction in California to, not having to get a card to get your weed anymore, just to go out and buy some like they can in Oregon?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are still going to keep that card because you don't have to pay sales taxes if you have that card, if you have a doctor's prescription for marijuana, which is a nice break given that the excise tax and the sales tax, at least in Los Angeles and LA County area, amount to about 35% roughly of your total bill. So a 9 or 10% break on that is not bad. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there were people standing in line waiting to get into these shops who I spoke to one guy who was like, it's legal. I'm in line. Haven't smoked weed in 30 years, but I'm doing it now because I can, and I can go to a store and it's legal. So it's kind of a mixed bag. A lot of the people I spoke with who were in line at the MedMen store in West Hollywood, which was among one of the first stores to open in LA County, a lot of those folks, were from out of state or vacationing, or people like that gentleman that I referenced just a few seconds ago who were happy that it was legal and he could walk to the neighborhood store and buy it. So it really was sort of a mixed bag. But yeah, there are a lot of people who are excited that that they don't need to go through the whole prescription process and finding a doctor and explaining that they have anxiety or sleep problems or back problems.
Well, it's crazy the reaction. You have people going after Attorney General Sessions from Oregon, from Colorado, from California. He is really a lightning rod right now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are looking at this as, it's the Trump administration versus these particular states, right? In California, as far as I've known and been here now for a year of the Trump administration, California seems to like to make itself, its lawmakers seem to like to make California, to at least a certain extent, sort of ground zero in the fight against the Trump administration. So there's a lot of defiance. We also heard that sort of defiant tone, not just from our folks here in California, but also from Oregon. I think The most conciliatory tone I heard struck yesterday was from Governor John Hickenlooper out of Colorado. Colorado, as you might recall, was one of the first states to legalize. I think it was the first state to officially legalize recreational marijuana for adult use. And the governor there, Hickenlooper, said, listen, we understand that Jeff Sessions is sort of vehemently opposed to marijuana and wants to keep its schedule, wants to keep its class as, you know, an illicit and prohibited drug. But Hickenlooper also said that he thinks that Sessions might also be sort of trying to dissuade future investment or future businesses from popping up, and isn't necessarily going to go some sort of full force with prosecuting and really pursuing the marijuana, you know, industry. So he kind of played it cool a little bit by saying that he thinks Sessions is having, I think, and these are my words, a little bit bigger of a bite or a little bit bigger of a bark than a bite on this one.
Well, I think it's a shot across the bow.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Shot across the bow. That he was trying to make a statement that takes a stand. Now, how enforceable that will be remains to be seen. Look, at the end of the day, what Sessions did was say, hey, prosecutors, go forth, do your thing. Remember, this drug is illegal, and remember that you can look at other things like banking and money laundering, like I said earlier. It wasn't necessarily like, okay, we're going to have a new policy and we're going to go after you. I think shot across the bow is exactly right.
Jessica, we appreciate you. Great to have you in the West.
Sure thing, sir.
Take care. Our great friend Jessica Rosenthal. Remember, only here at KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning do we go all over the country, whether it's to our friend Lars Larson in Oregon, whether it's to Jessica Rosenthal in California, or to New York, or to Washington. We do our very best to give you the most up-to-date information, and then we love to hear what you have to say about it. Let's go to Joyce in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning, Kevin. I want to preface this call with an absolute major kudos to you. Your kindness and your patience and everything that exudes from you to listen to your people, your people, us, is just phenomenal. You take the time and the grace, and you are singled out, my friend. So thank you so much for everything you do.
Well, Joyce, thank you for those kind comments. We do appreciate you listening.
My pleasure. Okay, with that said, it was several weeks ago, first day of lighting the Hanukkah candles at the Capitol. I attended there, and Mayor Beater was there, and it was the second year for me. And unfortunately, the PA system was very poor. But Mayor Beater, he did not lose the opportunity to, again, say we are a welcoming state. And it boggles my mind that all of this going on, all of this going around us, I'm getting emotional.
Well, hold on. Let me before you get emotional, let me try and make you smile here, or at least you can get it together, Joyce. You're listening to Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio, and look, before we get back to Joyce here, you know, I really don't know the deal with Dave Beater. His family has been here forever. They're very powerful. They do, you know, he's got brothers and sisters, and they're an institution. But on the other hand, if it's not a ribbon cutting or if it's not positive, A, he'll never talk about it, and B, there are a lot of serious situations that the mayor doesn't address, particularly the homeless situation at the skaters park, number one. And number two, you know, he always makes these, and let me apologize, Joyce, because you gave me such a great compliment. Let me apologize in advance for making the statement. He makes these dumb moves, like he and the city council endorsing Obamacare a few years ago in a non-binding resolution. The mayor, you know, having folks in and making these politicized statements. Now, if he wants to run for governor, let him step up and be like A.J. Belukoff and be a person and do it. If not, represent the people that elected you, sir. Now, back to you, Joyce.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was a nice segue. My point is that the ceremony, I mean, well in advance, months and months, if not longer, was prepared. He was there, sitting there, and it's my own opinion that it was like deer in the headlights. He was just not comfortable, and he been vacated as soon as possible. He had someplace else to go. I'm sure it's legitimate, but come on, it was something for the Jewish community, and he a hasty retreat because he had someplace else to go, and he didn't even stay for the whole, the duration. And what was it, maybe an hour and a half? The whole thing from beginning to end, and his little segment was 5 minutes maybe, and he had to go. I mean, but then like I said, he didn't miss that opportunity to, mention we are a welcoming state. It's just, again, boggles my mind. I mean, he's got to go. I'm sorry. I'm just so.
Hold on, Joyce. To quote you, he's got to go. Okay. I think a lot of people have tried that, and he's got his base. He's got the folks that support him, and that's the idea. Are conservatives ever really willing to try and reclaim the city of Boise? Or are they just going to move out? Or are they going to move to Meridian and all these other places? And one day, those places are going to be bigger than Boise, and we'll know why. Well,
yes, sir. And I actually 23 summers ago, we moved from California, Southern California, Ventura County, and it's beyond recognition now. And I have only one family member, from cousins to siblings, that are still in Southern California, and it's an atrocity. And it's all I can say is, whoever's coming in here, respect our values here in Boise and Idaho. Do not Californicate Boise or Idaho. It's fast growing. I get that. I mean, it's a positive thing, can be, but it's too fast and furious. Pardon the pun, but it's ridiculous how money talks and the rest walks, and we have got to stand up strong. And thank you so much for being an advocate for us, that we have family values and Christian values, and live, let live, yeah, but within parameters that our Father Creator, God Almighty, gave us. We have to respect, our land, our culture, our people. And I'm a very kind and giving person, but all the monies that are going to illegal, I mean, there's so many other ways that we can help other people in this world. It doesn't have to come here and be dumped on us. We have strong morals, and it's just so quickly they're trying to eradicate. I just thank you so much for being a voice for us. Your format. Oh, I wanted to say, we missed you so much while you were gone over the Merry Christmas belated.
Thank you.
We missed you so much, but whoever put the format together of replays and whatnot was great, because I don't have the opportunity to listen to you every day, every morning. It was just wonderful.
Well, that was Ray. Yeah, that was Ray Amaya. He's a genius at those things.
Oh, rock on, Ray. Yeah.
Rock on, Ray. Now Ray Amaya has a name. Rock on, Ray.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, you have a wonderful, blessed day, and thank you again so much for everything you do.
Joyce, thank you. We're humbled to have you. God bless.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And welcome. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. We go to Liberal Steve on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Good morning, Idaho. And good morning to that last caller. What? That was the longest load of hooey I've heard in a long
Good morning.
time.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to good morning. Good morning to
relatives.
the listening audience. Make your point, please, sir.
I have 100 relatives in Ventura area, and California is still great, just like America is still great.
Maybe you'd like to go back.
Sessions is an idiot. He is a stupid individual who ought to go home.
You know, we
and
refrain
just
from personally
sit
attacking people
deep.
on this program. So.
Oh, he personally attacked all of Colorado, all of, he said people that smoke pot are not good people.
The shoe fits.
All the people, now 14 new states have legalized pot in 2018, not just California.
Actually, there are only
14
6.
new states.
There are 6 states, sir.
You're not counting medical, sir. You're just talking retail.
Right, but I mean,
So
maybe you should.
get your facts
Maybe
straight,
you should have
Miller.
been specific, sir.
Oh, come on. See, you go south when you talk to me, which gets me riled.
Well, somebody has to, because you get everybody else riled.
Well, this is so stupid. I don't know what he's trying to distract from, but you know nothing's going to happen because this is what they say it was, a $3.5 billion industry already in the United States.
I have a confession to make. I am so happy because we are going to stamp out the lawbreakers. We are going to get rid of legalized marijuana, and we're going to do a lot for personal hygiene.
So all the neighbors in Colorado and all over are going to stomp out their other neighbors.
Look, I would voluntarily lead an invasion force into Colorado, Oregon, and Washington to make sure that those folks get it right.
So they're going to waste yours and my tax dollars trying to enforce anything? Yeah, right. Why don't they stop the cocaine? Why don't they stop the meth? Why don't they stop the heroin? Why don't they stop the filth? Why don't they stop the hackers that are getting into computers all over the United States?
Why don't we stop the madness on this program?
Why don't they go after real lawbreakers, Kevin?
Because
instead of wasting time
because
on what
the dope
America
smokers
wants.
are real lawbreakers.
Oh, you don't even know how it got outlawed to begin with, do you? And then they put hemp on it.
I know
you
the
know how many
law
farmers
is the
went
law, and
bankrupt
unlike you, sir, I obey the law.
You don't even know how it came about.
It doesn't matter to me, sir. It's against the law.
It came about by the lobbyists from Jack Daniels that put out the reefer movie, the lumber industry that didn't want hemp around. So they tied hemp, a farm crop, in with the cannabis and outlawed them both. There were farmers all across the Midwest.
You're telling me that it would be a good thing if we had people smoking dope and intoxicated. We can't control people that are drinking and intoxicated, sir.
Kevin, you just really, I got to say it, Kevin, you sound stupid when you talk like that. You don't sound like you have any intelligence, man.
And now you've personally attacked me. Well, I appreciate your opinion, sir.
Well, Kevin, I mean that. I mean that in a loving way.
It's taken in a loving way. Is there anything else? I mean, you've smacked me. You've smacked my
world.
I am not an educated man. If I had a brain, I would be dangerous. That's quotes from my father.
And you've traveled the world.
It's dreams of my father that I had a brain.
Do you think all the men and women in the military that smoke pot
they don't
are not
smoke
good
pot.
people, like Sessions said?
They don't smoke pot because if they did, they'd be out of the military.
Kevin, you've been in the military. You know they smoke pot in the military. I've been in the military.
In fact, I'd turn them
everywhere.
in. I would turn them in if they smoked pot.
It was everywhere. Yeah, you'd turn them in. You turn in your buddies that may save your life.
Well, not if they save my life. Liberal Steve, thank you for the call. Apologize that we couldn't go on for 27 more minutes of you insulting me. But it's time for traffic and weather together. And quickly to Pete in Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Kevin, I think what Jeff Sessions is doing is brilliant. He's responding to the Democrat agony over the tax bill and claiming that it would increase the deficit. He doesn't actually have to have the prosecutors arrest anyone. All he has to do is have them go for asset forfeiture in a big way. All the big growers, all the big dispensaries, and the cities in the state of California that are taxing the profits, and all the money that's in the banks that are coming out of it, they could seize all that, and they would never even have to take anyone to trial on that. They just seize the money, and then whoever had the money would have to prove it wasn't obtained from marijuana. Big bucks.
Boy, that's a brilliant point.
Hey, well, the Democrats are worried about the deficit, man. Here we go. This will solve the deficit. We'll seize all that marijuana money all over the country.
Boy, that's amazing. And just how angry people are about this. He's just enforcing the law and telling the states to do their job.
Well, and, I think maybe it is time, from a libertarian standpoint, it's time for Congress to discuss this whole issue and decide, is this something you want to continue as illegal or not? And not have it go by, are you here or are you there, or where, and fights between the states and the feds and fights between the federal agents. Let's decide.
Great point, Pete. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.